Live from Christenberry Fieldhouse here in Augusta, Georgia, as we are set to begin the Augusta/USC Aiken tournament. The Augusta series of games beginning in just a few moments. The first game will feature Barton College against Catawba. I'm Robert Ambrose alongside Blake Collins, and we'll be bringing you all the action, all three games today, as well as all three tomorrow in, that is to say, back-to-back days featuring triple headers. Blake, what do you think?
It's going to be a great weekend for volleyball. I mean, like you said, we've got Barton College going toe-to-toe with Catawba, and it's going to be an electric matchup to start to kick us off here this weekend. Now, it's also a split weekend because we're also sharing the USC Aiken's tournament as well. That's going on. That started last night, today, and tomorrow. We'll let you know what the happenings are with that tournament as well, but it is set to be a really good tournament kicking off here at the beautiful Christenberry Fieldhouse.
Absolutely, the teams are shaking hands. Catawba's in their road blue and Barton is in their home whites here in this one, as we are set to begin action shortly, as we'll also preview what else is going to go on this weekend and as well as today. As I mentioned, this is the first game of our triple header. It's the first of back-to-back days in which we'll have a triple header. In their second game here at Christenberry Fieldhouse, it will begin at 4:30, 4 hours from now. It'll be Carson Newman against this same Barton College team, and they'll play back-to-back days. And Catawba will play again in the nightcapper against the host Augusta Jaguars at 7 p.m. tonight. And then tomorrow, the first game of the triple header, Catawba, after playing back-to-back games today, playing right now and again at 7, they have to turn around and play at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow against West Alabama in the first game. And then the Jaguars play a doubleheader tomorrow in the final two games against Carson Newman at 2:30 and then at 5 against West Alabama. And also a bunch of series of games going on over at the Convocation Center across the border in Aiken, South Carolina. They had a game yesterday, as I understand it. USC Aiken played Carson Newman. The same Carson Newman team played at USC Aiken yesterday, and now that was a game last night, and now they have to play again at 12:30 in the morning. 12:30 this afternoon, I should say.
Yeah, well,
feels like morning.
This is going to be a really good fine-tuned matchup for both of these teams going into the regular seasons that they'll have this season to play in a tournament like this. You can't ask for better.
Absolutely not. And Catawba gets the first point of the match. They lead it 1-0.
Really good eye work there by Catawba on the outside hitter front, working the eyes, maneuvering the defensive setter to the left, pushing the kill over to the right in a pristine, perfect placement. Excellent vision there by Catawba to start off.
It's tied at 1. And we'll have to see how, in the long run, how Catawba responds after playing yesterday and quite short rest. And we'll see, or correction, how they respond today as well as tonight and tomorrow morning.
Well, right there, that was just making the defensive setter work when she was already at a place trying to come up and readjust and killing it right before she could get her base underneath to dig that out.
Right now we're tied at 2. So, as I mentioned, USC played Carson Newman last night at the Convocation Center. That's their home gym across the border. Carson Newman plays here at the Chris at 4 o'clock against Barton, who will stick around and play another game later today. And there are 4 games. After correction, there are 3 games going on at the Convocation Center today and 4 tomorrow. So they'll have a quadruple header tomorrow, while the Jaguars will have a triple header. So earlier today, they had a 10 a.m. game between Lander and West Albany. Lander will play again at 2 o'clock this afternoon against Carson Newman. So Carson Newman played last night. They play again at 2 o'clock this afternoon in Aiken. And then they'll have to commute, and they'll have to hurry across the border to get here for a 4:30 match against Barton today.
That's quite the hectic schedule, but Barton is showing that they're well prepared for any team that they're facing right now, already tacking on 2 straight points.
Absolutely. And interesting for Lander, who plays a doubleheader today in Aiken, is they were in the Jaguar Rumble tournament here that was hosted by the Jaguars 2 weeks ago. So before they even get into conference play, they're a member of the Peach Belt Conference, the same conference as USC Aiken and the Jaguars. So they'll have already had experience playing in 2 Peach Belt Conference gyms before they get into conference play. That's going to play a huge advantage to them.
Oh yeah, it's especially a rival in your conference like that. You not only get a feel for how the gym lays out, but also just a feel for the atmosphere as well, especially when, as we mentioned, Lander comes here to AU and then AU goes to Lander for the final game of the regular season.
And those could be the most important games of the year, with huge Peach Belt Conference tournament implications, even if you've clinched. I mean, every game at the end of the year is huge because either you're playing to get in or you're playing for seeding if you've clinched, and seeding is extremely important.
Absolutely, and with matchups like that and close matchups, because we saw Lander here at the tail end of the Jaguar Rumba tournament, the second to last game played on the last day of that tournament. They look crisp, they look sharp, they look ready to go, and they're going to be a tough contender for the Aiken portion of the tournament here this weekend.
Absolutely will be. So Catawba, they gave up a few points in a row, and since then they've scored 4 in a row, and they lead it. Now make that 5 in a row. It's 7-4. And that's going to be a net violation on the serve, so that's a point for Barton.
Love the decision, though, there by Catawba in the sense that they saw everybody falling back to the middle of the court, and the outside hitters and the middle defensemen were back trying to cover up the middle. So what do? Just soft serve it over, even though it didn't work out. If it would have been over to the net, it would have been right in front, landing on Barton's side of the court. That was an exquisite decision. The only flaw was the execution.
Battle at the net, and it's won by Barton.
And that's another thing. When you have trench battles like that up front from the outside hitters and the defensemen up front, it becomes not only a battle of arms and a battle of length, but it also becomes a battle as well of timing your jumps to get the premier height on the block that you want. And at that point, Barton on the last play just overran Catawba in the trenches and garnered their 6th point.
And you gotta be able to time it perfectly and be in position as well. And does that land in bounds? It does not. 9-6 favor of Catawba. They're going to send Abby Benton back to serve it. She's a sophomore from High Springs, Florida for Catawba. And we have a substitution on Barton's side.
Well, they kind of worked Abby on the last point to perfection there, kind of misleading her going to the right, and then they absolutely pressed the attack on the left, and that's where I believe it was Barton who converted on that last point.
Benton back to serve again. She gets the cross. Another net battle is won by Barton, and it's 10-7. And you're seeing very early on, both sides, excellent chemistry and ball movement, good court awareness to know where to be and where to hit the ball, knowing where your teammates are as well, and being able to hit it across on both sides. You're seeing that.
One of the things that Barton is doing just a tad better is their footwork. They're able to cover up some of the gaps in their defense a little bit better than Catawba. Now, right there, Catawba just absolutely exposed the defense on their heels right there, and hopefully this will spark a fire for them to continue to press this lead. But if you're Barton, you want to continue to kind of rearrange the defense to your liking and then exploit the holes and put on a fierce attack when you have those holes that you can see and convert on the points.
Catawba does there. Barton does again there, so it's 11-9. Seeing Barton's doing a good job, even though they came up short on that last one. And Catawba does the same thing here. But they're doing a better job in terms of, like you said, covering ground, their footwork, diving after balls.
Well, and right there, that was a phenomenal job by Barton on the serve. They saw that the backcourt, the defenseman and the defensive setter and libero were back on their heels, so they readjusted their power through that serve, and it did wonders for them there by falling right in front of the defensive setter.
Tied at 11. It's a back and forth match so far. 2 weeks ago when we hosted the Jaguar Rumble tournament here, one of the many preseason tournaments that the Jaguars have had the privilege of participating in this year, we had 6 matches total in 2 days. They were all sweeps.
Yeah, both Montevallo and the Jags during that tournament were cooking with Crisco on every facet of volleyball. They're blocking, their setups, their transitions to setups to prevail in kills, to the defense and digs. Every part of their game was cooking on all cylinders, and when you have that, you're going to be hard to stop. And with Barton right now showing that they have really good footwork, and you can tell that the game last night, that Catawba played is really helping them kind of get set in this matchup here today to kick us off.
Absolutely is. Catawba has scored 3 in a row. Said how it's been even back and forth. It's also been a match of runs so far. 14-11, Catawba on top. Mentioned how good Montevallo was in that tournament 2 weeks ago. Lander was really good too, and that's another reason we're really excited about seeing how they match up against USC Aiken and, of course, the Jaguars near the end of the season, how big that game will be. And, of course, and we'll see how Lander also does in the Aiken matches during this weekend's tournament. We'll keep an eye out on that as well. Service error, that's a point for Catawba. If this match becomes a battle of heights, Catawba has the edge. All but 4 of their players are 5'10" or taller.
The way that you circumvent that though and work around that is mixing up your offensive attack and your strategy, because if the defense knows that you're going for a kill, why not set it up and go with a float over the front court and the outside hitters and defensemen up front, and then have it fall right behind them to where your defensive setters then have to come up and dig it out and are out of position, which sets the defense off even more. So that's a way for you to circumvent what you were talking about with the height up front.
Yeah, and if you know if you have the height advantage and you want to take advantage of that and use more kills or spikes, and if you're the defense and the other team, if you can float it over their heads, get it out of their reach, that can work to your advantage as well.
Now, with you having the height advantage as well, means you have somewhat better angles on your offensive side as well. Look for Catawba to utilize that to a fierce tee here today, because with those sharp angles at their advantage, they can do some damage.
It's 16-15 Catawba. Catawba with 3 up on the net, speaking of their height advantage. And they're also, you see, they're doing a good job rotating back and forth as well.
They are, but one thing I'd like to see them work on a little bit is closing up the gaps in between each blocker at the net. Augusta likes to implement close, tight-knit blocking scheme that you can't really work the ball in between. Is what I like to call a brick wall scheme in terms of blocking up front. And I'd like to try to see Catawba implement that, even if it's just a little bit, to kind of throw off Barton's offensive scheme, because right now Barton is doing a really good job of working the front court and working over the holes that the front court is giving them.
And they do have, so Barton does attempt the floater, but Catawba had backup on that one.
But look at how they set up, though. You had the libero there come up to the front court and help on the setup to dig that out. Now, if Barton would have noticed that, if they would have been given the opportunity, they could have exploited the backcourt and seized on another point opportunity there. So there's little things like that even though it's good rotational work and comes up big for the opposing defense, that opens up another hole yet for the offense to expose. And then if you try to get back in time, then you're off kilter, and it could prove even more off base and more opportunities for the opposing team to convert when they have the chances.
And a timeout's taken here, 19-16 Catawba. First timeout of this match. And it's called by, it's actually taken by Barton, so they'll have one remaining. Catawba will have 2 here in this set. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back. Welcome back here to the Chris. Once again, it's set one of match one of our triple header here in this one. 19-16 Catawba has the lead, and they have the serve. Abby Benton serving it once again. And they get it over, and Barton once again tries the float over, but Catawba uses their height to block it, and they get it back over. And that's a beautiful spike by Barton, they don't, with the height, it's hard to hit it straight down when you're that far away from the net, but they're able to hit it at just a perfect enough angle that it's able to go out of reach and hit the ground.
And that's key, because in a game like this where you're given little space to work with in terms of what you would think you would have, it's crucial to work those angles and to create the holes to be able to puncture home or punch home those points.
And we see an interesting attack on Catawba's side. So they had, the point there goes to Barton. Another beautiful spike with the perfect angle on it, just barely lands in bounds. But we're seeing by Catawba, so they have the 3 up on the net. And they were hitting it back and forth to each other on the net. And perhaps the idea there is to catch the Barton defense off guard on who's going to try to kill it, and then they go back and forth, and then they eventually go for it. Barton ultimately got the point on that one, though. But seemingly that's the idea. And Barton gets another point there, so we're tied at 19. They do a beautiful job hitting it cross court and keeping it in bounds. And now, after that, Catawba will take a timeout. So each team will have one remaining. Tied at 19 here in set 1. We'll be back. Welcome back here to the Chris. It'll be Barton's serve here. Tied at 19 in set 1. For those thinking of coming down and checking out some of the action over the weekend, admission is free into these events. Parking at Christenberry Fieldhouse is also free, and there are, as always, plenty of spaces available. So why not come check out this beautiful facility and see some exciting volleyball here over this weekend. 2019 Barton. Catawba on the attack, and that sails out of bounds. Point for Barton. Now it's 21-19. That's 5 in a row for Barton. With the way this first set is going, it's a shame that one of the teams will have to be behind 0-1 going into set 2 with as well played as this set has been.
This has been a great back and forth affair here to kick off the opening matchup of the tournament. And as we mentioned before, we've seen it to where we've had sweeps galore in another tournament we had hosted here. So it's refreshing to see this type of heart, this type of determination and will to not let the other team garner the first set and to have fight.
Absolutely, and that tournament you speak of was the Jaguar Rumble hosted here 2 weeks ago, and as I mentioned before, that tournament had 6 matches and 6 sweeps. That is correct.
You had 2 really good teams as well going into that tournament, and they continue to impress. But let's not forget too that tournament also brought out some very good lessons out of that tournament that the teams could take with them And as like here today too, even though you'll have a winner and a loser in these matchups, you still have lessons and things to learn and to take in and to be able to apply to your game to make your team better going into the regular season or continuing the regular season.
And that's the point of having these tournaments early on.
Absolutely.
And how lucky are the Jaguars to be able to host two of these and also participate in a tournament last weekend up in Charlotte hosted by Queens College. So 3 tournaments in 3 weekends. Let's also not forget, the Jaguars have a doubleheader next Saturday up in Tigerville, South Carolina before conference play. And how lucky also is USC Aiken to be able to host some of the matches in this weekend, as well as Lander for being able to participate in 2 of the tournaments as well.
Well, it's definitely a good scouting opportunity for Augusta and USC Aiken in Peach Belt Conference play. That's something that the host teams get to do, especially if they have a conference rival in the tournament, is scout them to the best of their ability to be able to game plan and scheme to their game, adjust to their game, and then also think of strategies to overcome their game as well. And that's something that with USC Aiken hosting Lander and with Lander coming here one game, that's an advantage that Augusta and USC Aiken have when they go into the regular season and playing Lander University. But right here, we got a tie ball game. We got a tie matchup.
Yes, we do. Both teams, neither team had used any of their timeouts until it was 19-16, and now it's 22-22. Not a lot of time has passed since, but the teams have now used up all their timeouts for this set. We're tied at 22. It's a best of 5 for the rest of this set, as teams need to get 3 more to win and have to win by a minimum of 2. So that's how this set will play out. And of course, that's how every volleyball match plays out, being a best of 5 sets as well.
And it seems like for the last couple of points, the Catawba team has definitely closed up some of the gaps that Barton was exposing earlier. And beginning now, as we see the 23rd point come across the board.
23-22 Barton of a substitution. Checking into the game for Barton, Kelsey Raquelme. Waiting for the serve here. 23-22 Barton is on top of Catawba. This is the first game of our triple header here on this beautiful Friday in Augusta. What a job by Catawba to get that one over. A one-handed floater. But Barton hits it back over and they get the point.
That was a dig working as a transfer that worked as also a clean house type of get over to the other side of the court and then allow your defense to set up more offense for Catawba on that dig out from the near side hitter to go over to set that up.
Absolutely. Set point here, Barton with a 24-23 lead. And Barton's on the attack, and it's won by Catawba, and we're tied at 24. And now someone's going to have to score 2 points in a row.
It is hard to penetrate blocking that is crisp like that, especially when you have your arms as firm as Catawba did. And not only that, but to be able to get past, as we've been talking about, the height of Catawba's front court.
Set point once again for Barton, 25-24, they lead. They got to win by at least 2, even though they've gotten to 25. They get it across. we'll knock on wood as we say this, but based on the way this first set is going, it seems pretty unlikely that this will be a sweep. I'd find it very hard for the winner of whoever ends up winning this very well played first set to also win sets 2 and 3. I think it'll be a tough task, and we'll see our first non-sweep in all the tournaments that have been played here in Augusta over the last 2 weeks.
Well, as a volleyball fan, as a non-partisan volleyball fan, seeing games like this is why you like to watch volleyball. Two teams giving everything they have, laying it all out on the court, going back and forth, and it's like two heavyweight contenders giving everything they have, and that's something that any fan would be able to appreciate.
And it's hard not to appreciate the way this set has gone, as Barton ends up taking it 27-25 as they win the final net battle, as they take a 1-0 lead. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will preview set 2. And Blake, it'll be interesting to see if set 2 can top what we saw here today so far.
It will be. There's a couple of adjustments that Catawba can make, especially like we've been talking about, closing up the holes, having a little bit better footwork, especially from the defensive setters, and being more on the balls of their feet and more at a ready position to come back and close some of those gaps. And then there's also some minor adjustments that Barton can make to reassure that they do take the second set. We'll see what happens, but both teams have come out swinging here today in this first matchup of the tournament.
Yes, we will certainly see on the other side of this break. This has been a special presentation of the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. Stay tuned, everybody. Welcome back to Christenberry Fieldhouse. It is 1-0, 1-0 in favor of Catawba, as they have taken the first set and was a very back and forth battle. And this is going to be, that should continue here in this match as we start set 2. Blake, can set 2 top what we saw in set 1?
It definitely can, and I mean, especially if the teams come out cooking like they did in at the start of the first set, and then make the adjustments throughout the second set here. It should be a well of a second set with both teams going down to the wire.
Take a look at some of the stats from set 1. We talked about how back and forth and even this match has been so far and how even set was. Besides the points, 44-42 in favor of Barton in attacks. The kills are even at 14 on both sides. Attack errors also even at 6 on both sides. 14-13, Catawba has the edge in terms of assists. And 19-18 in favor of digs by Catawba. Just, it's so close in just about every stat. Also, both teams with 2 blocks and 4 block assists. That's how even this is. It doesn't get much better than that. And if you're Catawba, you don't really have to worry about figuring out what adjustments to make to turn things around. I mean, they did everything right. It was just a back and forth match that just went Barton's way. And for Catawba, you just got to keep battling and doing what you're doing, and eventually it's going to just kind of have to let it play itself out. And if you're Barton, same thing. Don't celebrate, just keep playing.
Yeah, the more focused you become, the more in sync your offense and defense will work as a unit, and that's something that both teams will strive for as the game progresses.
Barton leads at 2-0. And the kill attempt by Macy Eidenberger, did that land inbounds? It did not. She tried to hit it on the sideline, but it just landed out of bounds. And it was a hard position because Barton had most of the court covered, and they basically have it so where if you want to hit it to the ground, you're going to have to hit it out of bounds. Perfect defense, and it worked. So they lead it 3-0.
That was a very good read there by Barton on the near side. That was a split-second decision. They had to read that, and it was a pristine read on their part to now, after that last point, tack on another to go up by 4.
It's 4-0 Barton. Here so far. And an early timeout as Barton takes a 5-0 lead. The timeout's called by Catawba. And in a very large contrast to set 1 where neither team took any timeouts till it was tied at 19. And then both teams ended up using all their timeouts in set 1. Catawba takes an early timeout here in set 2, trailing 5-0, trying to turn things around. So now, all of a sudden, right when I'm talking about how they don't really have to worry about adjustments because it's just back and forth and they just kind of have to let it play out. Well, now I think they do, right when I said that.
Absolutely. And this is a good timeout possession, too, to settle down Catawba here, get back focused to playing more of your style of game, because right now, kind of back on your heels. You're not flustered yet as to make defensive mistakes just yet, but to simmer down, refocus, and then continue your game plan of attack and press the offense to force Barton to make mistakes.
And seems as though Barton, after winning the back and forth set, got a lot more energy off of it, and they've been able to feed off of that no problem so far. And we'll see if the timeout, if they're able to preserve that energy. Off of the timeout, high in the air, and a save by Barton. Catawba goes on the attack. Diving stop and a dig by Jade Brooks for Catawba, and they're able to get it across. Correction, that was by Barton. They're able to get it across. And now they get it across again, and that's going to go off the fingertips of Morgan Hester. So Barton with another point on a very well-played round, and it's 6-0. Carson Newman has arrived here 3.5 hours early, and they're doing a little early warm-ups. They have a 4:30 match with Barton. That'll be the second game of today's triple header. Catawba will be interesting to see how they handle the time in between matches today, because they'll play again in the final match of the triple header today against the host Augusta Jaguars, but not until 7 o'clock.
Right. Which works out really good for the Jags, but also for Catawba as well. I mean, you not only do you get a good 2 to 3 hour break, depending on how the rest of this game plays out, but you also get an extra 2 hours added on to that to rest up for that game.
So it can work to your advantage there as well.
Absolutely.
Maybe even more so than playing back-to-back.
Yes and no, because I mean, even though you're tired, if you're playing back-to-back, you still have the adrenaline rush from the game before, and that can help you out in tremendous ways as well. So it can definitely help you out, but it can also hurt you in more ways than it can help you. So it just depends on the team that you have, the stamina, the willpower to persevere through both of those games. But yeah, you're right. It can definitely help you, but it can also hinder you if you play back to back, as opposed to what we're seeing now with Catawba playing now and then later on.
So it's all about how you prepare and handle the situation.
Exactly.
Got to play your cards right.
Absolutely.
It's not about what you're dealt, it's about how the hand is played. What a beautiful floater by Barton. Blake, you mentioned this in set one.
Mm-hmm.
With the height advantage favoring Catawba, Barton needs to use their floaters to get it over the heads of the Catawba players who are guarding the net. They do that perfectly there.
Even when the front court was in the back part of the front court, they still had enough power behind it to float it over the front court, and it fell right in the center of about 3 to 4 Catawba players. A pristine float over to score their 9th point.
10-2, Barton. They are on a roll here to start set 2. Long way to go, though. But it's a tale of 2 sets so far. Ashley Owens serves it for Barton. Catawba goes on the attack, and Catawba with the height advantage, they had people playing back, and Barton took advantage and moved people up towards the net, and they get the kill there. And they attempt the kill, but it actually goes out of bounds. So that's a point for Catawba, and it's 9-3. Looked like Barton had that set up perfectly, but it just went out of bounds. Apparently it fooled the scoreboard people too. Will Doss almost saved that one, our assistant SID. But it was just a little bit out of his reach, Blake. That just lands in bounds, 10-4 Barton.
He had the right amount of power mixed in with the great angle she had on that kill.
Substitution, Barton will check into the match. Cameron Frederick and Angelica Acevedo will take a seat. They have a 10-4 lead and a 1-0 lead here in set 2 of match 1 of our triple header. You have to wonder if the Jaguars, how much of the tournament they'll be watching here this weekend. A lot of them might be in class right now here on this Friday. And then they'll be probably over in the evening to get ready, but curious how much of this they'll be able to take in as they prepare and get a look at some of the teams. And Barton was guarding the net, but they're unable to handle it. And that's a point for Catawba.
Well, that was a good transition from the Catawba front court to the outside hitter a soft transition set back, but in the timed it perfectly with the jump and then the kill to spike it after. You couldn't have asked for a better transition and a more fluid play from Catawba right there.
You absolutely can. So it's 10-4. Catawba, or no, Barton will serve it. The Jaguars played shorter University here on Tuesday. They dropped the first set and then absolutely dominated sets 2, 3, and 4 to win 3-1. And the set 1 was back and forth, similar to what we saw in set 1 here in this one. And so far, it's been all Barton in set 2.
Well, now you're gonna have a conference call of all the officials to talk about kind of the last play and what they want to do. But yeah, you're right. And Catawba has to focus more on this game than what's behind them coming up at 7 o'clock, because if they do that, then Barton can completely run away with this game, with this matchup. And that's something that if you're Catawba, you do not want to happen. You want to put your best foot forward right here and right now, facing a pretty fluid Barton team. On 3/4 of their game, they're firing on all cylinders. There are some mistakes that they are making, but they're also are covering up the mistakes that they make very well with good transitions and good rotations to cover some of those up, especially here in the latter portions of this second set.
11-4 Barton. Each team with basically a free timeout with the officials council. Sarah Kirk serves it. High up in the air.
Good dig out of the backcourt there to set that up.
And the spike is won by Catawba with the height advantage, and it's 11-5.
And we keep talking about the domination up front by Catawba right there. Perfect timing on the jump. Got the right height on that jump on the block to bat it down. Very good front court presence here, dominating by Catawba in this half of the second set.
It's 11-6 now. You can tell Catawba can battle back. No problem. And they get the point as they hit that one hard, and it goes off of the hands of the Barton libero, Riley Bain, as she had a little trouble reacting to that one and ended up hitting it down.
I mean, even if you're just a fraction out of position, a dig like that you don't have your firm base behind and the perfect positioning to dig that out can deflect off of you, and that's what cost Barton there. The defensive setter on the far side just didn't have her base under, and she couldn't dig it out the best of her ability, and it cost Barton to give up their 7th point to Catawba.
And so that makes it 11-7, so that causes also Barton to take a timeout as well. So each team will have one left here in this set. So Catawba has responded a little bit, and now it's Barton's turn to respond and keep some of the momentum they built after the fast start. As now Catawba's battled themselves right back into this set. They're falling behind big early. It'll be Catawba's serve. And what we're seeing with them is they have 3 people lined up behind the net, basically in a T shape with the net and the 3 players, and then they move, once the serve is made, they move up towards the net as part of their rotation. Now they go into attack mode, and they get the point. So it's 11-8 all of a sudden.
Good vision there by Catawba, realizing that they were concentrating more on the middle part of the court and then just freezing the defensive setter and blasting the line like that. It's a very good read by Catawba, and it pays off for him.
And Catawba goes for the float over, but Barton had backup and was ready for that one. And then they respond with the float over, and it works for them to perfection. Or was that a net violation? It's now 11-9.
I don't think it was a net violation. I think they had the float over in mind, but the float over didn't shoot over the top of the net, so it was point Catawba in that instance.
Out of bounds?
Right? No, it landed on Barton's side of the court. It didn't have any direction toward Catawba's half of the court. Once it was high enough to go over to their side, it just didn't go. It just didn't go over.
And Catawba is on a roll, and it's 11-11 tied set, as they have battled back. And once again, we're now seeing a back and forth set, just like we saw in set 1. And another point for Catawba, and they have their first lead of set 2.
They are scouting Barton's defense really well right now. You notice the front court's kind of maneuvering their eyes to look over, see where they're positioned, and then look for the ball, and then being able to change up strategy in mid-motion to seize and conquer on these points and opportunities that they're given. Catawba's exhibiting and implementing phenomenal strategy here in this second set to move closer to within 2. Or no, to lead by 2.
Net battle is won by Catawba. 14-11. They are on a roll.
You're seeing a much more complete and a fiercer side to Catawba, especially the front court is stepping up in a major way right now for Catawba.
They hit across, and this time it goes out of bounds, so Barton does get a point there, and it's 14-12, a whistle. Substitutions for Barton, as that puts in Brittany Silence, 5'5" freshman from Jacksonville. That is to say Jacksonville, North Carolina, of all Jacksonvilles. They get it across. On the attack goes Catawba, and a beautiful job by Barton blogging the net. And it goes out of bounds, and Catawba gets the point, and it's 15-12.
Yep. Yeah, you were mentioning the Jacksonvilles. There's also more than one Paris. As we know, Paris, France, but there's also Paris, Texas, and then there's also more than one Augusta.
There's a Paris, Texas?
Mm-hmm. And there's also an Augusta, Maine, and Augusta, Georgia. So you've got definitely some geographical locations with the same name.
There's also a Jacksonville, Oregon, and a Jacksonville, Alabama. But where's Paris, Texas? Is that in the Houston area, or Dallas area? Where?
The last time I checked, it was more toward the center.
Okay, so like near Midland. I gotcha. 15-13, Catawba on top, and that hits the net, and that is a point for Barton. 15-14. We're checking on that right now on the city's official site for a little fun background.
We've got a huge kill that was soldered off at the front court, but then Barton could not recuperate in time and left Barton on their heels, and they just could not recover.
16-14 Catawba. So we're on the Paris, Texas website. And there's a little pole on one of the pictures. I believe it's just a wire post, but it does sort of look like the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, it's toward from what I'm getting toward the middle of Texas.
And I guess that pole is actually, according to the map, it might be called the Eiffel Tower, unless that's something else. Looking on the map for a little fun background. And that's a point for Barton. So Barton battles back, responds well, and we're tied at 16. This is a set of runs. Here, one team gets hot, and then the other team responds and gets hot. That's where we stand right now, tied at 16, each team with one timeout remaining here in set 2. It's not far from the Arkansas border.
No, it's near Texarkana, and then also about maybe an hour 30 minutes north of Dallas.
Interesting.
So that's just a little fun fact. But with I gotta tell you, man, these two teams are going neck and neck, and there's no foot off the gas pedal from either team. Neither team has both teams have a never say die attitude, and it is a pleasure to watch because you're seeing battle wounds being opened up on the battlefield. You're seeing heart and you're seeing determination from both squads here, and the fight is ever present from both of these teams. And it's going to come down to which team has the better strategy towards the tail end of this set to prevail here. Or it could also come down to which team makes the last major mistake for the opposing team to either connect on a run or also prevail in the set.
Well, it's one of those where we want to find out which team blinks first, basically.
Because neither of them right now, with it being this neck and neck, are, which is a pleasure to watch.
Is it like some of those football games where it's like the team who has the ball last is going to win when it's high scoring, or it just comes down to that?
Well, you've got a number of factors here that's prevailing. That the defenses are not where they were at the start of this set, and that's prevailing for both offenses. But then you also have some mistakes, whether they be small or a little bit of mental mistakes here coming into the fray to help both teams out. And neither team, like we just said, is going to give an inch, and that's what's so captivating about this game. And yeah, if you want to bring that into the fray, it's like, well, with football, even if you do have the last hope or the last possession, if you will, going down to the 50-yard line or the 25, then it's imperative on the defense to step up. And that's something as we relate to volleyball, especially within the first set and the second set, early part of the second set, both defenses were stepping up. Now it kind of faltered here a little bit right now, but it has a lot to do with the play of both these teams and being able to find those holes and being able to actually force the opposing team to make mistakes on their own, and then capitalizing on those mistakes as well when you're seeing it. So you've got a little bit of everything here at play.
A little bit of everything. Doesn't get much better than that.
Not in a game like this. Not in a matchup like this at all, because with these two teams going like a Fraser and Ali back and forth, that it's a good opening matchup to glue your eyes to.
If this is a sign of things to come, we're gonna be in for a very fun weekend.
Absolutely, and for sportscasters like you and myself, you couldn't ask for more.
Absolutely not.
You couldn't ask for more, and for these teams to be giving us everything they had, especially when Catawba just got finished playing last night, and to come out here and putting up the fight that they're putting up today is absolutely phenomenal. And it's a credit to their head coach, a credit to the leaders on this team, and a credit to the team and coming together in chemistry. Now for Barton as well. I mean, this is their first contest of their tournament. They finish up here, then they go to Aiken to play Aiken, their final contest tomorrow. And this is definitely a darn good test for them, because with that being said, their tournament's only going to get tougher, because you and I both know how good USC Aiken is. So for them to play that team at the final matchup of this tournament, they've got to be cooking on all cylinders, and this is a huge test for Barton to start off this tournament in a very good way to get them ready for Aiken tomorrow.
And for Catawba, they got to get ready to take on the Jaguars tonight. And it's the same idea for them.
Mm-hmm.
(19-18), Catawba with the lead here in set 2. Catawba tries hitting it across the court, but it goes out of bounds. Beautiful defense by Barton, guarding all areas. So Catawba really had nowhere to hit it. We're tied at 19.
No, but that was a good split-second read there by Barton in the defensive setter. She initially wanted to go after it, but realized that at the last second it was going out. Very good read to set up that point for Barton.
Barton gets it up in the air. Back on Catawba's side, and that one barely lands in bounds. Hit almost the same spot as the last one, but this one just in bounds, and it's 20-19.
When you sneak up another player into the front court, whether it be a libero or the defensive setter, it leaves the backcourt exposed. Catawba saw that and buried Barton on that play with a pinpoint kill to the far side backcourt.
Tied at 20. Last set 1 was 27-25. Barton just barely won. And they had to go score more than 25 because you got to win by at least 2. Could we be coming down to that here in set 2 again?
Well, both these sets have been a good knockdown, drag-out war between these two teams. And you're seeing why these two teams are evenly matched in a sense, because they're not giving an inch. They may have different game plans, but each and every defensive play that the defense has is very well adverse in seeing it and countering it, and that's another form of how these two teams are good at playing one another, because you're seeing it right here with this back and forth battle that both these teams have.
And that time we have a kill by Barton, and it's 22-20, and a timeout taken here by Catawba, as they want to figure out how to respond to back and forth set, although they do trail by 2, and we're closing in, getting closer to set point. And Obviously, this is a lot more important for Catawba. They don't want to fall behind 2 sets to nothing.
This game right here is, remember how the first tournament here shaped out, right?
Yes.
This kind of game was what we thought the Jags and the Falcon matchup was going to go. But this matchup right here is proving that these teams will not quit and have something to prove here on the Chris and Barry volleyball court in Augusta, Georgia today. It's an absolute phenomenal matchup to watch.
Yes, it absolutely is. And if you're the Jaguars, obviously you're getting ready to take on Catawba tonight. What would you take from this?
Well, there's certainly different things that you can utilize, and we'll talk more about it after this particular play.
Barton with the serve, and they get it onto Catawba's side, and a very aggressive attack for Catawba as a team, and they get the point. It's 22-21. And the other question is, if you're Carson Newman, what would you take on what you've seen from Barton? From what you've seen from Barton, who you have to play at 4:30 today.
Well, a lot of that depends, especially with Barton in the Carson Newman game, or Carson Newman matchup, to see how exhausted Carson Newman will be, because we talked about earlier their day today and what they're having to pull off today with Aiken and here within the next games that they're playing back to back. Not consecutively here and not consecutively there, but just 2 back-to-back games, one at Aiken, and then their very next game will be the next game here. But regardless, for Augusta and Catawba, you're seeing some things with their footwork is improving right now, but still, with Augusta's front court and their fundamentally sound footwork that they have, they can utilize some of the holes that Catawba's using right now, are showing you right now to exploit, to go on major runs. And another thing too, with as dominant as the Augusta front court is, much like the Catawba front court we're seeing now, that front court for Augusta is a completely different animal. And
you have Mackenzie Beck and Savannah Gonzalez.
Absolutely. And for Catawba, you don't want to force yourself to play mistake-free up front, because if you do that, you're going to wind up with mistakes. But you have to be firing on all cylinders, playing at the top of your game to be able to even to be able to make it a contest up front for Catawba, with as strong as Augusta's front court is.
That will be a very good battle at the net.
Absolutely.
When these two teams go at it tonight. It's 24-23. Timeout taken. Barton with the lead, and it's set point. Welcome you back here to the Chris. So with it being set point, Catawba will serve it, trailing 24-23. This is a must-score point round for Catawba, as they want to be able to tie the game and suddenly force Barton to have to score 2 in a row to win it. And that goes out of bounds, and they're able to do just that. We're tied at 24.
It was interesting, though, with Barton's setup. They had 3 set up on the right side and 3 set up in the backcourt, leaving the far side, left side front court open. Now, if Catawba would have realized that, they could have done a soft serve and had Barton sprawling, but it still panned out in their favor anyway.
25-24 Barton, as they've scored 3 in a row since facing set point. It's been a good comeback here by Catawba to battle back after Barton had a very fast start to this set. I believe they led it 8-2 early on.
It's a good dig and positioning on the base by the defensive setter to dig that out.
Barton moves into the attack position, and they get the kill on the point, and they win set 2 and lead it 2-0. As we will be set for set 3 on the other side of this break. You're watching and listening to the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. We'll be back. Stay tuned. Welcome back here to the Chris. We are set for set 3 here in this one between Barton and Catawba. Barton taking the first 2 sets. They have both been very well played, back and forth, and with that said, it's not really a lot of momentum with it being back and forth, other than the fact that Barton leads 2-0. And if you're Catawba, you just got to keep fighting. And they've showed that they can make adjustments and battle back like they did in set 2 and make it interesting before Barton closed it out. So they just got to continue to do that and kind of see what happens and just take it one at a time. There's no real momentum or reason to panic in this situation, even though you're down 2-0.
No, by any means not, because Catawba has many things that they can build off of on the first 2 sets to break through here in the 3rd set and take this set wholeheartedly and continue the front court attack. That has been working extremely well for you, using, as we've been talking about, size advantage at the front court to your advantage, but also incorporate some more of your defensive setters and your libero in the backcourt as well, because that way utilizing the whole team will open up more holes you can seize on, maneuver the defense around to where you can seize on bigger and better holes in the defense to capitalize on points.
And Barton gets the point there, 1-0. And yeah, like a lot of times you try to hit it where the defenders on the other team are not, where it's out of their reach. And Barton's done a good job of covering up all those areas, not really giving Catawba much places to hit the ball.
They have very good footwork. That is an advantage that they have had throughout this whole entire matchup. But where there's good footwork, the Catawba front court is on fire, and when they can create angles and convert on those angles, there's not much that footwork can recover on something like that. With as sharp as they're hitting it and with as lethal as their angle is in converting those points, there's not much you can do.
And same instance just there is Barton ends up having to hit it out of bounds because Catawba had the entire court covered. So they lead it 2-1, and they have everybody lined up behind the net in a similar T-shape like I talked about earlier, and now they rotate for the attack.
Well, and there is one thing that Barton in a position like that can help them out in trying to subvert that, is being in a ready position on the balls of your feet, so to say. Like in baseball, you always kind of want to be toward the mid to the balls of your feet to be in a ready position to attack the baseball. Especially the hot corner or the field of play. You know, trying to be ready to cover anything. Taking it back to volleyball, that's something that Barton can utilize very well to circumvent their front court, is being on defense in an attack position to maneuver themselves better for those kills that Catawba is bringing to the table.
Absolutely. And we see 2 beautiful diving digs in one instance there by Catawba when the ball's on their side and they get it across.
The defense this set has been phenomenal. Is not only those 2, but a third one there by Barton to keep the play alive. But man, oh man.
And that was a beautiful kill there as well. That makes it 4-2. Catawba just reaching up and hitting the ball down over the net.
Well, it's one thing, because I think Barton was thinking that they may go for a longer kill, but Catawba shortened it up and deadened the kill right before Barton could adjust to the angle of that kill, and Catawba secures their 5th point off of it. Or 4th point, excuse me, and then
it's 5-2. It was 4-2.
Yep.
That's ruled an attack error by Angelica Acevedo. And a point for Barton, then it's 5-3.
Just a fraction of miscommunication right there, because you had a defensive setter coming up to dig that out and set that up, but then you had a middle defender almost double touch on that, and it caused confusion, and that's where Barton tacked on their 3rd and now a 4th point as we continue this back and forth love affair in this matchup we're seeing.
Can't wait. Catawba with a very aggressive attack, and we'll credit the kill on that play to Jade Brooks. That makes it 6-4. tries to hit it over again, and that time point goes to Barton, so it's 6-5.
Both teams have come firing on all cylinders and ready to play. This is as tight as we've seen it in tournament play this year here at the Crisp, as you like to say, and it's just electric seeing it because both teams are not giving an inch.
And another officials meeting. We've had a lot of these today, giving teams free timeouts.
Well, you would rather have these meetings and get the calls right than to
absolutely
miss something and cause a team a game when you're not meaning to.
Absolutely, and without instant replay, this is the best way to do it.
Absolutely, and even when you do, like see in baseball all the time, instant replay is not always perfect, not always right. So a meeting of the minds is one of the better ways to go about it.
It's right 99% of the time.
97. We'll put it in that 90 percentile
very technical,
range.
Blake.
90 percentile range, because there have been some calls. It's especially against some of the teams that you're just like, how can they be reversed when it was clearly the other way around?
Well, a lot of times the angles that you get in New York are different than the angles that the TV viewer will get.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of what you're seeing.
Which you would think that would actually help. You would think that would actually help them proceed with the right call. And 90% of the time it does. But then there's also that 10% where it's just like, eh. So the human element here, you appreciate it more when it's like this than especially in like a sport where it has replay all the time, because you don't get a chance to see that much, and to see conversations come out of it is always a good thing.
Yes, absolutely it is. So 8-5 Catawba with the lead. Catawba trying to stay alive and force a fourth set here in this one. They want to try to make Barton as tired as possible before they have to take on Carson Newman at 4:30 this afternoon. Make there as little bit of a gap as you can give them between games.
Right.
When we were down 2-0, it's like, why not? 9-5, Catawba with the lead. So Carson Newman, as I mentioned, they played last night at the Convocation Center over at Aiken. And now they're going to be back at it at 4:30 this afternoon against Barton. Here in this one.
They have got quite the schedule ahead of them.
And not only that, they're playing actually at 2 o'clock this afternoon at Aiken, so then they'll have to commute over here.
And I believe that game is set up for a 4:30 game as well.
So, assuming the game doesn't go more than 2 hours, they'll have, I believe, is it about a 30-minute commute here to get here in time?
A lot of times it depends on whether you're taking a bus or a car or whatnot, and the driver as well, because, I mean, there's roads that connect downtown. You can come from downtown up here in a straight shot, but that also depends on traffic as well.
Yes, it absolutely does. And traffic's not as big of a deal here as it would be, say, 2 hours west of us in Atlanta.
No, Not at all, but still downtown for here. If you go through that area, it's something to behold. So and especially around like 4 o'clock, which I think they'll already be past there by now. But if that game does go into 5 sets or 4 and it's pushed back, then they'll run into it.
And then if you push that one back, then you're on the risk of pushing back the nightcapper with the Jaguars and Catawba, which is scheduled for 7.
Mm-hmm.
These start times, folks, with these tournaments, they're all tentative.
It's sort of like you always see with a show or in professional wrestling. They always say this as well. It's cards subject to change. It's the same type of situation here, because if that game goes 3 sets or maybe even a 4th set and at a pretty good pace, then we may get that game off here on time. But if not, then the card will be subject to change, or the tournament will be pushed back a little bit, and that's to give them time to get here and warm up and get ready for the game.
And a violation on Catawba. You hit the ball one too many times. Mm-hmm. So that's a point for Barton. It's tied at 10, Blake. We were talking during baseball season about the Aiken to Augusta commute, because the Jaguars in baseball last season hosted a 3-game series with USC Aiken Masters weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So yeah, that's a completely different animal during Masters weekend here. Holy moly!
Because we're talking about the traffic between the two cities and
the
commuting situation. Of course, USC Aiken is, for a baseball season, if you play a 3-game weekend series, they're the only team in the Peach Belt Conference that would commute all 3 days and not have to stay in a hotel. So with that said, if the Jaguars had to host any games that weekend, it would have to be USC Aiken, who doesn't have to worry about finding an Augusta hotel that's not available.
But you also take into account too, though, that was commuting from USC Aiken to Lake Olmsted Stadium, which is
that's true. That's a little different.
Which is 5 miles west of here. It's a little bit of a different area and a better commute to that particular area, because you can just take Broad Street from 13th and Georgia Avenue on up to Lake Olmsted Stadium, where it's a little bit different here. Georgia Avenue to 13th and then come up. Well, 13th is 2-lane, a portion of it coming from downtown up here too. So you got to take into account that as well. But yes, to your point, we did talk a lot about it. Hopefully, though, Carson Newman won't run into any type of delays or anything like that getting here, and we can see a really good volleyball game at the designated time. But I'm on this particular matchup right now with Catawba and Barton squaring off. If this is showing us what's to come in this tournament, it is going to be a darn electric tournament throughout.
It absolutely will be, and regardless of start times, they'll all be exciting no matter what.
Absolutely.
That's all that matters, right, Blake? 12-10, Barton on top. On the attack goes Catawba, and they get the point. Several Barton players dove for that, nearly collided with each other.
When you have like a 4-6 split like that in bowling, splitting 2 defenders who were diving for the volleyball, pristine placement, placing it right in between both of those players and out of the diving reach of the libero and the defensive setter. Absolutely phenomenal work there by the outside hitter for Catawba.
And now they're on the attack once again, and well, they tried to float it over, but it didn't work because Barton had 2 people guarding the net. They were right there to beat it down. 13-11. Substitution here.
Interesting alignment here by Barton, lining up 4 and then spreading out, giving an illusion of an open court there to Catawba.
And the kill by Catawba, that's going to be credited to Kimberly Hurtado, 5'11" senior. So it's 13-12. She spiked it right down. So it'll be Catawba's serve. All 3 sets have been well played and back and forth. Even though Barton does lead it 2-0. And Catawba gets another point as Barton made several attempts to dive after and get digs, but it just sailed out of bounds to the scores table.
That was a great adjustment there by the outside hitter, working the eye movement to the right and then killing it to the left on a phenomenal kill. It sent Barton sprawling, and the deflections out of play, they could never recover and get it back in.
14-13, Barton. And Barton with the serve. And now we're tied at 14 apiece. So it'll be Catawba's serve this time. Barton on the attack, they get it across, and now it's Catawba's turn on the attack, and beautiful defense by Catawba. The host Jaguars are 7-1 so far this season. They did drop a game in the tournament in Charlotte hosted by Queens College, but they swept all their games in the Jaguar Rumble tournament last weekend, and they defeated Shorter College on Tuesday, 3-1. And in that game on Tuesday, they dropped the first set and absolutely dominated sets 2, 3, and 4. And in their home games, that was their only time they've lost a set. They've been pretty much dominant outside of that here at home.
Yeah, you want to talk about a team that is cooking on all cylinders and has every chemistry, front court, back court presence, phenomenal footwork. The transition game is very well distributed throughout. As you mentioned, Mackenzie Beck, Chloe Allen, Blair Bolton, Natalia Gouveia, a lot of distribution throughout. Assist to set up an offense that is electric and will absolutely bring everything they have to the table, and it's up to the opposing team to be ready for it, and a lot of them had failed to do so.
Point for Barton, we're tied at 16. It's just back and forth. Feels like a lot of these sets have been tied at basically every number up to 25.
That's also a really good sign of 2 evenly matched teams.
Absolutely.
I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better opener, especially here at Christenberry Fieldhouse to start off the tournament.
Absolutely not. And that's why I say there's not really any momentum on either side other than the fact that Barton won both the first 2 back and forth sets. They were both tied at 25, and they had to win them both by at least 2.
I think there's been a period of like a 4-point run at one point, but that's also been quickly quelled too. So once you get the momentum, it's quickly subverted and it's quickly halted to where you're back to square one, trying to fight your way for the lead and fight your opponent to garner the lead. And once one team takes a punch, that team dishes out another punch, and it's just a very good, refreshing volleyball game to witness.
It absolutely is. We're tied again at 17. We were tied at 15, we're tied at 16, now we're tied at 17. Are we going to be tied at 18 also?
If these teams have their way, we will. We will be tied all the way up to 24 if both teams have a say in it.
18-17, Barton on top. They get the point. Alpha substitution here.
And the thing about it is, both squads know the quality of performance they're giving here today, which pushes them that extra mile to do even better, pushes them beyond their limit to take a set, to take a point, to, in Barton's case, if they take this set, they take the match. So it pushes you and motivates you even further beyond your normal capacity or normal limits of what you normally exhibit out on the volleyball court in games like this.
Catawba on the attack, and they'll get the point. So it's 19-18. By the way, it was 19-17 Barton, so we did not get the 18-18 tie like we were wondering about. Nevertheless, still a 1-point set. Catawba with the serve.
And as we've seen, no lead is safe.
Not even a 2-set nothing lead with the way this match has gone if you're Barton. That's why I say there's not really momentum. Tied at 19.
And you can bet if Catawba does take this set, their confidence will be through the roof, and that 4th set will be killer for both squads, because with that confidence, the Catawba will be even more focused, and Barton will be focused trying to figure out a way to halt Catawba's charge.
2019 Barton, 21-19. And right now, even though it's back and forth, once again Catawba has to battle from behind, and it's getting more and more crucial for them to get the points here, trailing 21-19. And now they go right on the attack. They try to float over, and does it work? Yes, it does. The ball did just touch the ground. I believe a Catawba player, or a Barton player, tried to dig it up and may have kicked it over the net, but touched the ground just before that, so it's 21-20. Here comes Catawba on the attack. Dug up on the Catawba side. Back on the Barton side. They get the point, 22-20.
Great job of splitting two front court middle setters right there, and absolutely just burying it beyond the defensive setter in the backcourt. Phenomenal job there by Barton to secure their 22nd point.
Barton will serve it. And here they come on the attack. Dug up high up in the air on Catawba's side. And that's going to sail out of bounds. And that's a point for Barton. It's 23-20. They're starting to feel it. And with that said, Catawba will take a quick timeout.
This is a good utilization of the timeout, because you could feel it starting to slip away a little bit from Catawba. Get them settled down. Get your squad refocused, retune, and continue the fight that you've been giving Barton all set long. Catawba's nowhere near out of this matchup or out of this set.
Not at all. 23-20. They just, no game clock. You just got to score 5 points before Barton scores 2. It's as simple as that. Actually, you technically have to score 5 in a row.
Which is basically the equivalent of a 4-1 run Catawba has to get on to tie this game up, or to tie this matchup up.
And if Barton gets another point and gets to 24, it's going to be even that much more crucial for Catawba.
Right, because then you're not playing, you're not feeling the pressure, and you're not playing to a mistake-free game as of yet. But if you get to that 24th point and realize that the next point could be match point, then yeah, you start feeling the pressure of playing mistake-free, and that's when you open up your vulnerability and open up your game for more mistakes than you would if you're not playing mistake-free.
And a service error gives Catawba a point, so it's 23-21, and that gives Catawba also a serve. Here they come, and it bounces over the net, and it goes on to Barton's side, and Barton's unable to hit it over across. I think the weird bounce off the net may have caught Barton off guard a little bit.
Give the net an assist on that one, man. That was perfectly utilized because Barton has lined up in a 3-3 on two separate sides of the court for a number of plays now. And Catawba finally noticed that and developed a strategy to utilize it and drop the ball in the front court where there were no Barton defenders anywhere in sight. That was a phenomenal job of scouting, even though the net kind of assisted with that. Still, you got to give Catawba props for realizing that and taking steps to implement a strategy like that to exploit an open court like that.
And they've scored 2 in a row, so they're right back in this, and they have the serve, and it's 23-22. If they get a point here, then someone's going to have to score at least 2 in a row after this, and they do. Tied at 23.
So what do you say? Let's go to the 10th round right now. I'm absolutely loving this.
Let's go, like you said.
I mean, like 3 sets, cutting teeth with back and forth brilliance from both sides. This is a whale of a volleyball matchup, and I personally wouldn't mind seeing this go for 4 or 5 sets. When you get a game this good, you kind of want it to last for as long as it possibly can.
Well, if Barton wins this set, it's over.
Yeah. As a fan, we've seen great play from both squads, and the heart right there on the dive from the far side defensive setter there keeps the play alive.
That lands inbounds, and Barton gets the point, 24-23. Whistle on substitutions here. It's match point, folks. Barton will serve it, and now we'll see Catawba with a substitution, so they'll see Abby Benton check into the game. And a very hard serve, and they get it across. But good defense by Catawba on that, Blake.
And phenomenal save there by Haley Headley from Barton as well to save that point.
And the violation on Catawba gives Barton the point in the match. They sweep 3 sets to nothing in this match, but it was still a very well played match. Every match was back and forth, came right down to the wire, and Barton just got the edge all 3 times.
You cannot say enough as to how balanced both these teams were in playing one another, how evenly matched this was, and how much of a beautiful and crisp volleyball game to watch as a fan, and as a sportscaster being able to call a game like this, it's a thrill because you know both teams were on top of their game. And yeah, there were some mistakes. Have you ever seen a sports game without mistakes in it? And
no, that
but
never happened.
it's the mindset to minimize the mistakes and not allow the other team to capitalize, which we saw both teams do very well here today. I mean, there were some situations where Barton capitalized, but then Catawba came back with their strong suit and then capitalized on their front court when Barton made mistakes. Seesaw battles like this are always fun to watch, a pleasant surprise when you get it, and both teams can be proud of the game that they played here today because both teams know that they gave this game their heart, their soul, and their all, and both teams can build off of this game, take lessons from this when they watch this video back, and come up with different strategies to help them better their teams as the season progresses.
It absolutely will. And it's not going to be easy for Catawba as they have to play the Jaguars next tonight. And Barton's got to get ready to play again in just over 2 hours from now. And so there's not much time for them to celebrate this one. They just got to get ready to play again, like I said, in just over 2 hours.
Yep. And all in all, you couldn't have asked for a better way unless it went 4 sets or 5 sets to kick off a tournament like this. We always talk about this being one of the best ways to get a team ready for their season, and both these teams look to be in tip-top shape going into the continuation of their seasons. Just a phenomenal matchup to start.
Absolutely. We look forward to bringing you the final 2 games of our triple header today, as well as all 3 tomorrow. What an exciting weekend of volleyball here at the campus of Augusta University, Kristen Perry Fieldhouse. Coming up next, in just over 2 hours from now, it will be this same Barton team taking on Carson Newman. A 4:30 start time for that. That'll be the second game of our triple header today. For Blake Collins, I'm Robert Ambrose. This has been a special presentation of the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. Once again, the final score here in Game 1 of our triple header, Barton defeats Catawba 3-0. We invite you all to stay tuned